Hopefully these 10 things will help you next time you are in a pickle or looking at a lead gen campaign and you're saying, why is it failing? How's it going, everybody? Another episode of the PPC Cave today. It is episode 117. But before we get into our episode, I want to talk to y'all about our sponsor, Optio. Optio is the best PPC software of all time. I'm just going to say it. It's one of the best. I haven't used anything better than Optio. One big reason is just how they're really integrating AI into the actual interface. So as you saw, if you were watching, we created a video, me and Shakira from Optio, and she went through and told us how we can create a to-do list. And I've been utilizing this to-do list almost every day. I'll go into a specific account, just click to-do list. It'll spit out everything that I need to look at in the last 14 and 30 days and compare it to the previous periods, and also give you an actionable route of low priority, medium priority, and high priority action items that you need to go into the actual account and change. Or if you don't want to go into the account, you can actually change it on Optio itself and have those changes pushed from Optio to your Google Ads account. The reason why it's so important is it's not only layering your Google Ads account, but also layering your Google Analytics account together. And on top of that, is providing AI functionality. So it's better than you individually just looking at Google Analytics, or you individually just looking at your Google Ads account, or you individually just going on ChatGPT or whatever LLM you use. All of it is already put together. That's why it's providing meaningful, very, very meaningful suggestions, not like you would see on Google Ads recommendations. It's very meaningful and very impactful, and I just can't stand by it more than I can. I could talk about the whole episode, but I'm not gonna, because I don't want to shill it too much, but it's really good. You should just check it out. Okay, go to www.optio.com/theppccave. Upgrade your free trial for 14 days, up to 28 days, almost a month for free. And if you need help setting it up, let me know and I'll do it for you. So getting into our episode, 10 reasons why your lead gen search campaign is failing is the title. Ryan did a great job last week talking about lead gen secrets also. So why don't I just continue on with the theme here? So 10 reasons why your lead gen search campaign is failing. As you know, I'm getting a lot more lead gen clients in the last 2 or 3 years. If you're an OG in the PPC Cave, it was essentially me doing maybe 90% e-com, 90% e-commerce clients. Now I'm bringing a lot of lead gen clients, and lead gen is definitely, in my opinion, it's way harder than e-commerce. Way harder, just because there's so many different ways that you could get to that final point of them generating a lead, if it be a call or form submit, whatever it is, click on your specific page, compared to e-commerce. Just because on e-commerce you usually have a manufacturer part number or a very descriptive title on the product pages, you could essentially just work around that. Now for services such as, I'm going to use roofing for example, just because I do have a roofing client. If you're using roofing, there's so many ways to get to it. You could roofers near me, of course, roofing contractors, roofing installation, roofing replacement, storm. You could even do like storm replacement roof, or like something along with the elements being the anchor keywords in the search keywords that you show on Google Ads for. So there's just so many ways to skin the cat, and it's important for us to just maybe lock these 10 things down, and maybe I'll do like a to-do list or like a checklist here for these 10 things. But 10 reasons why your lead gen search campaign is failing. Number one is you're targeting the wrong keywords. Duh, obviously. But this is easier said than done. A lot of the times we can't differentiate if we're in a new niche, lead gen niche, what an informational search is versus something that's high intent. We may look at informational search and say, oh, well, these check off all these boxes because this is actually on our service page, but we don't know enough because maybe we're not in the niche long enough, or we haven't ran Google Ads, so we don't have the experience to actually know what works or not. And we can't say, oh, this is informational, so this is someone just researching, so we'll make it this negative keyword. So I think it's very important for you to get a crash course, the faster the better, to understanding your specific lead gen niches, like what is informational, what is research, and what is actually high intent, where they'll be able to elicit a response, i.e., submit form or call, whatever that lead generation conversion action is. But yeah, you really need to focus on that intent, that intent that someone is actually going to buy and not just peruse or not just, be researching the research phase. Um, there's a lot of examples for this, like even when people sometimes put the word review or best, they're looking for a lot of, or even just like the why, how, what, where, DIY, all these things are informational. They're not going to bring you leads. So I think it's super important to understand that you need to target the right keywords. I know I made that super basic, but it's the first point. It's super important. Two, your search terms are just not matching your service. And I think for you to understand how to match your search terms with your service, you have to really have product knowledge of what the service is. I know I get a lot of inquiries. Sometimes they come through as an actual client, sometimes just an audit, but they'll be like, hey, I sell LED walls for keynote speakers and conferences, super niche, so it's on you as a PPC manager to really identify what the service is so that you can understand how you can work backwards into what is a relevant search term. And then before that, what is a relevant search keyword. You have to review the search terms regularly, especially if it's a new campaign. I mean, I'm checking it twice a day, 3 times a day, even looking at like impressions and seeing, okay, I'm getting like 5 impressions for this. I'll make those impressions negatives even if they don't incur an actual click. So you have to really review it regularly. And then I'm adding negatives and creating negative keywords aggressively. A lot of the times we're just going to make that exact match negative keyword, but not go through and be like, there's actual themes here where I could create off of that negative exact match keyword, a phrase match keyword or a broad match keyword that are both negative. So it's important for us to have foresight and to understand, okay, this specific exact match keyword came in, so I have to create a theme of negative keywords in both broad and phrase so that this specific type of theme does not come in again because it's absolutely useless to us. And that will help you really eliminate that spend or the wasted spend. Three, your budget is too small. A lot of the times we come in and try to treat, maybe e-commerce and lead gen campaign the same. And I've seen for even e-commerce, you can really get away with like a lower budget sometimes just because there are specific, like for a product page, there might be a specific color or specific, feature that your product has, and that could be a differentiator, and you could be getting long tail keywords for that, so the CPC is very low and you'll get more volume. Because if the CPC is low because something's very exact or I guess bespoke, then of course as a product you're going to get a lot of that traffic and perhaps conversions. But for lead gen, I've seen just so many more competitors really bidding on the broad search term level. Roofer near me, there's probably 40 roofers that have that in their Google Ads account that's going after roofer near me. And if you know anything about supply and demand, if the supply is very low but the demand is very high, then there is Google right there and saying, okay, if the wait, did I just say, I guess if the supply of traffic is very low, but the demand for a specific niche is very high, then the average CPC is going to be up higher. If what I'm saying, if there's more competitors bidding, 40 competitors bidding on roofer near me, then of course the cost per click is going to be high. Therefore, your budget might be shortened or a little bit too low. So if you're going after or managing a high cost per click industry, you have to understand it's going to take patience. It's not just going to happen in 1 week or 1 month. Many campaigns aren't just going to generate enough leads or data to get to even create any momentum on Google Ads. So you have to be able to go to the client and say, okay, what is the actual monthly budget? And is this sustainable for a minimum of 3 months? If you're able to do it more than 3 months, then you'll really learn what you can do, or you'll learn what you obviously can't do, or what keywords aren't working for you. But yes, high CPCs industries will really strain your budget. And a lot of the time your budget becomes too small in lead gen is because you have four services that you want to target, when in reality you should pick your top service and just go after that. If you can create momentum in your top service, what makes you think you're going to bring on a random service that you don't really have a lot of clients, a lot of traffic on those pages, and then just start showing that on Google Ads and getting conversions for that? It just makes no sense, right? So start with the service that you really know that is your bread and butter. You can get leads for it because you've seen it happen organically. Then transfer that into Google Ads and scale that first so that your budget isn't spread too thin. But yeah, I mean, you have to continue to be able to test also. If your budget can't support testing and you're only locked in a specific keyword or specific service, and you really want just that, you're trying to force a square peg into a round hole, as they say, then that's not a good take on how a lead gen account is going to be successful, because you have to be open to maybe going to the second tier service because the first tier service might be too convoluted or saturated. Going to that second or third tier service in lead gen and pushing that instead. So be malleable. If you want Google Ads to work, you really have to adhere to what the market is saying. And the market is saying you're spending but not getting conversions. That is a huge signal that maybe there needs to be a readjustment either in offering or the way you're trying to target that offering. And sometimes some markets are just going to require larger investment. If you have a specific package that you know is going to net you $30,000 and you're not okay with spending 1,000 a month, or anything you want 1,000 and below, that's not going to work out, because people are, on the other side of that. Your competitors are on the other side of that, knowing, okay, well, I'm going to net this specific amount of money. So therefore, I have to put that investment that's going to be proportional to receiving potentially that type of, money for that lead, for that specific service package, for that, whatever it may be. So, really set your expectations and be fair with your budget, and not trying to just say, okay, well, I have a $20,000 package, I'm going to spend 500 bucks. Be fair and understand that there are ways to test and see if your budget is too small or just being spread too thin. One of my favorite things on the campaign level is looking at search impression share loss due to budget. If you can look at that and the percentage is obviously high, then you might need to ratchet up the spend or really hone in on the specific service and keywords instead of spreading it too thin everywhere. Just have a little bit of a tighter theme. Fourth, your landing page is weak. A lot of the times people love to just have a final URL or landing page that is a special offer. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, right? But a lot of the time to say, oh, I only want this landing page to show. That's not how Google Ads works. If someone is going to go on your website, you're not just going to pigeonhole them to look at one page and they're like, this is an amazing service. I don't need to look at anything else. I'm just going to go ahead and click through and submit the lead form. No, they're going to look on your website because that's what I do. That's what you do, right? If you want to buy something, how else are you going to know that website's credible? You're gonna look at one page and you'll be like, "This is great. I'm. Here's my information. Here's my phone number. Here's my wallet. Here's my credit card number." No, they're not gonna trust you. So I have clients all the time where they want to, they'll be like, "Okay, I want this landing page, and it's a third party landing page, not even attached to the actual URL." They'll be like, "Show this." And I'm like, dude, I'm telling you right now, it's not gonna work the way you think it's gonna work. Maybe it'll work a little bit, and sometimes it does. But from what I've seen, the more that you let your traffic just be free roaming, but guide them into the campaign or the actual final URL or landing page that's related to the campaign or the service that you're providing, but don't like focus on, okay, this is where they need to land and it's just a sales page, or this is where they need to land, it's just a promotional page. If you don't have the credibility tools of review about us or even other services or before and afters on that specific page, you're really shortening the leash when it comes to how people research other services online, other local services online. So make sure your landing page is, strong. Just because I've said it before, our job is demand capture. If there is a roofing um, uh, potential customer out there, our job is to capture that via search, to capture the demand. Our job as a PPC manager is not to create that demand. So I can only lead the horse, to water. I can't make them drink, right? So I think it's important that if your landing page is weak, you're maybe funneling them to one sales page, not enough credibility, not enough information, or even visuals on that page. Rethink that, redo that, revamp. Make sure the load times are crispy or is quick. Make sure that the call to actions are strong. It's very visible. Also, just the design. A lot of the times people are looking on desktop and mobile, and then they'll be like, "Oh, my desktop version looks great," but they forget to check the mobile version. Uh, Make sure all of that is in play, along with trust signals. If you're accredited by the BBB or whatever accreditation you have in your own industry, if you're insured, if you're bonded, all those things need to be in your landing page that you are driving traffic to from Google Ads. Number 5, your offer isn't competitive. And a lot of the times you have lead gen customers come in or clients come in and be like, yeah, this is enough because this landing page says that this is my offer, it's competitive. Um, and if you're not offering a free estimate, what are you doing? Like that's like one of the biggest things. Like they need to see something free or of value, right? Do you have financing? Do you have some type of warranty? Are you like a 24/7 emergency service? I've had clients that are uh, mobile automobile technicians. They could come in an instant, like things like that, same day response or same day booking. um, People are looking at speed of service, people are looking at the quality of the service that you have, and then of course they're looking at how competitive are your pricing. So if you could win on all those three, which is very similar to if it was just e-commerce, but in lead gen, if you could win on the speed of service, if you could win on the reputation, and credibility, if you could win on the pricing, then you're going to have a good chance of getting more leads. And 6 is your conversion tracking is broken. I've had a client recently, and they're very obsessed about conversion tracking, and they're always like asking, "Oh, is it broken? Is it broken?" And I tell them, "No, it's not broken. It's working." But sometimes I'm second guessing it because it's like, "Oh, why don't we have as many conversions as we should have?" But check your conversion tracking, making sure the form submits are working, even on the actual website. Not just on Google Ads, but actual website. But yes, of course, check if the reporting is correct also, or if it's firing correctly. The phone calls. A lot of the times, you have a client that's has so many moving parts. I have a huge, not huge, a pretty big client, and I feel like they have different phone numbers for different um, cities, and there's like 30 different cities. So sometimes they'll change a phone number, and then I'm like, oh, why is the calls down for some reason? And then I'll check, and I'll circle back with the owner. They'll be like, oh, we changed the number, and I'm like, yeah, maybe let me know. Maybe let me know these things. So just make sure that your conversion tracking is up to date and it's not broken. Don't just assume that tracking works. 7, you're making changes too frequently. Oh boy, yeah, this is a big one. You're creating constant keyword changes. Maybe the budget is increasing and decreasing. Maybe you're switching bid strategies. Maybe there data just needs time. So if you could make these changes maybe on a 2 to 3 monthly cadence, that'll really help you solidify the parameters of the data so that you're not creating decisions off data that's not established. That's the biggest. I think that's what takes a novice level PPC manager into expert master level, is that not to be frantically changing the account, not because you're lazy, but you understand the cadence of how Google is. We're assimilating into other competitors. If you change anything on a campaign, just resetting that. There's always the resetting, of things. Even if you create a new ad, or even if you create a new keyword, even if you create a new campaign or ad group, all those ad groups, keyword or ad groups, and campaigns and ads all have a specific ID. So every time you change it, even if you're just shuffling, like maybe you're repurposing or recategorizing ad groups, you're taking a winner ad or a winner keyword or a loser keyword out of an ad group and rejoining them and recategorizing them. Even that will even there's going to be a little restart time, little learning time because of that, because they're getting new IDs assigned to them. So I think it's super important that you understand that the frequent changes, if they're not warranted, it can be really detrimental than it be helpful for you. So understand that it's huge. Do not make too many frequent changes. Um, yeah, number 8, your ads aren't differentiated. You know, I think there's sometimes we get ad fatigue, and I think this is where AI comes in, where you could really utilize just more of that creativity flow instead of, quality service, call today, trusted company, blah blah blah. All these things that yes, you should have that. If I'm not saying that the ad copy alone is going to, oh, I'm going to click this ad because this ad copy is just written like Shakespeare. It's not like that, but to provide variety is also, there's also something to be said about the variants of words that you use within ad copy. So I think understand that you got to highlight what makes you different, whatever competitive advantage that is. Be specific. If you've been in business since 1911, you've been in business for almost 100 years or more than 100 years, in business for over 100 years. If you're veteran owned, if you have a good story that about us or something that's differentiating your service from someone else, if you have a crazy, like, I will be there in 2 minutes. I don't know. If you have a competitive advantage, make sure that that is aligned with the copy that you have on your Google Ads. 9, your sales process could be the real issue or it could be the real problem. As I mentioned before, our job is to generate or to demand, to capture demand and not generate the demand. Um, but sometimes the campaign is generating leads, but maybe your sales team or you as an owner just can't close them. And how do we, as PPC manager and owner, connect on that? Do we need to have specified ad copy where it says you're only open XYZ hours? Or do we only run campaigns XYZ hours? Because if it's after hours, then no one is picking up the phone. And even more so if, like, this is just local, like if you actually have a nationwide business, that could be really detrimental if you don't have anyone or any staff on call 24/7 or whatever it may be, because then you have time changes, right? Someone in New York might be looking at your service and you're based out of Hawaii or Alaska, and that gap, if no one's manning the phones, or even for a submit form, if you don't get a reply, an email reply acknowledging that submit form, sometimes those leads can grow really cold very quickly. So, how's your sales process? And could that be the issue? Are you not able to close these leads? How fast are you replying to the leads contacted? And even your follow up. It's not enough for someone to come in and reply to an email. That was an actual lead. You're just going to reply once. You should definitely follow up either via call or email, whatever it may be. So, how is that post lead? How's your sales process? And could that be the real issue? And number 10, last but not least, why your lead gen search campaign is failing, or why you think it's failing, is you might be looking at the wrong metrics. Clicks are not leads. And I have so many different, this is the reason why I wanted to do this episode, because I've been like dealing with lead gen lately, and it just sometimes, me and the client are just not aligned, and we're trying to get aligned, but it's just really difficult. But I have one client that was saying, basically, yeah, there's not a lot of clicks here, so it's not working. And I'm like, yeah, but your conversions and your cost for conversion, first of all, your conversion volume went up since you hired me, your cost of conversion went down 30% since you hired me. So I think that's a win, you know. So sometimes explaining it in that sense, or just meeting where the client is at or the owner is at with an explanation, even though as PPC managers, it seems like a signal of mistrust or that they don't trust you. I think it is really important to kind of guide the client in a way of looking at the right metrics and just refraining from looking at vanity metrics or metrics that don't really impact or move the needle on an account. So, we got to focus on qualified leads, right? Um, and even cost per lead, all those things, like the vanity metrics of, okay, how many, even looking at leads themselves, like they'd be like, oh, there was 40 less leads here. What happened? And I'm like, okay, but there's 30% higher book appointments. We have leads spanning from calls to clicks to submit forms, which are book appointments. Obviously, there's going to be more weight if someone puts their own credit card and books an appointment than calls. So it's really important to look at the right metrics and kind of guide the client. Hey, maybe you're seeing something different, or maybe there's a decrease in what you're seeing. But as I dive deeper as a PPC manager, maybe we're actually getting more value here than what we're thinking we are getting. So, yep, closing thoughts. Most people would think their lead gen campaign is failing. Some of the root causes is wrong traffic, weak offer, poor landing page, bad tracking. But one of the things that is basically for all 10 of the reasons, or all of the 10 things that we went over, kind of like main idea is, before making changes, just identify what problem you actually have and what you're trying to solve. I think that's really important as a basic structure of even just not even lead gen, but just e-commerce or PPC in general. Understand and identify what the problem is, and solve that problem and be specific. But hopefully these 10 things will help you next time you are in a pickle or looking at a lead gen campaign and you're saying, why is it failing? Oh, let me look up the PPC Cave, 10 reasons why your lead gen search campaign is failing, episode 117. But yeah, that's it for me today. If you have any questions, email us at theppccave@gmail.com. We're very active on our socials. We post monthly, and on IG, on YouTube Shorts, on TikTok. So engage with us. And if you have any comments, I did look on the YouTube. Shout out to the people actually commenting on the YouTube. I got on there, replied a couple times. So shout out to y'all. Y'all know who y'all are. And yeah, I am gonna make that new ChatGPT ads review, I guess, because I have been running ChatGPT ads. I'll make a video of that maybe a month or two. Sometime the data's kind of taking forever to come in. So but regardless, if you want any management from me, go to tempest59.com. That's Tempest number 5 number 9 tempest59.com. You contact me there. We release every Monday at 12 a.m. Mountain Time. And yeah, don't forget about Optio. www.optio.com/theppccave. Upgrade your 14-day trial to a 20-day trial today. And if there's nothing else, bye for now.